Welcome to Faith Literacy Bitesize Session 3, and today we're going to be looking at the reasons for the diversity of beliefs and practices within Christianity. We're going to be covering some of the examples of the different Christian opinions and practices. We're going to be talking about the three main divisions within Christianity, as well as the issue of denominations and the issues of traditions and why those are important. And we're going to be finishing up by looking at the level of the individual Christian and their own personal diversity in their religious beliefs and practices, before, as ever, giving you a few questions for discussion. Now, as we kind of get going, just to remind ourselves that Christians are a very diverse group of people, obviously been around for 2,000 odd years, and they come from a range of backgrounds and have had a range of achievements as well. I'm sure you'll recognise most of the people that I put up here, and you'll be able to think of some others. Now, Christians also have diverse opinions and practices, and now these can differ between individuals, but have also differed between cultures and over time. So, for example, Christians have been both for and against the following issues: slavery, gun control, abortion, same-sex marriage, the ordination of women priests, social redistribution, and environmental issues. Now, some of these issues have been resolved within the church, but others still divide Christians in the UK or abroad. And Christians also have different views about some of the core teachings of the church, which is what I'm going to come on to next. So many of you will be aware that there are sort of three major divisions within Christianity: the Catholic, Orthodox, and Protestant churches. And this is a very simplified diagram that sort of sets out a little bit about how those three divisions arose. So obviously you had Christianity beginning around about 2,000 years ago. And then you had a great schism in 1054 AD, which came about due to a complex mix of religious disagreements and political conflicts around the primacy of the Rome versus Constantinople. And that led to this split where we had the formation of the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church. And then many hundreds of years later, in the Reformation, there was a further split where the Protestant Church began to exist and came about in reaction to some of the teachings and practices of the Catholic Church at the time within Europe. Now, since that point, the Protestant Church has got developed, and there's lots and lots of denominations because it doesn't have an overarching authority like the Catholic Church does. Now, looking at the exact issues of denominations versus traditions, obviously I just mentioned denominations in relation to the Protestant Church. A lot of people that I meet will think that the denominations are the most important thing, but from my point of view, I think the traditions can often be very important. So, an important way of explaining differences within Christianity is the relative importance of three different sources of authority. So firstly, church tradition, secondly, the Bible text, and thirdly, Christian principles. Now, these all matter to every Christian, but the choice of which source of authority should have the determining voice on an issue, or where the emphasis is placed within Christian practice, is associated with the different traditions or varieties, if you like, of Christianity. So, for example, and in very broad brush terms, if church tradition or teaching has the supreme role, the final say, then you're likely to be a Catholic or in an Anglo-Catholic tradition. By contrast, if the Bible text has the highest authority among these principles, you're likely to be in an evangelical tradition. Now, within this, if direct revelation from God is important, then you'll be within a Pentecostal or charismatic evangelical tradition. And finally, if applying Christian principles in a way that's relevant in today's society is key, and the most important thing, you're likely to be in a liberal tradition within the church. So an awareness of these different traditions may help you to understand disagreements within denominations. So, for example, as seen in the Church of England, where there's a mix of liberal, evangelical and Anglo-Catholics within the same denomination. Now, coming down to the level of the individual Christian that you might meet in your workplace, or you might be yourself, ultimately the level of the individual, their own tradition of Christianity may interact with still wider personal and cultural factors to inform their personal beliefs. So, for example, their cultural background, their political beliefs, their own nature, their own disposition, and what the law says. And all these things will come together to inform a particular Christian's beliefs and practices. And so hopefully you can see why this leads Christians to end up in a whole range of different places on different issues. So that's the end of the content. Just to finish up with some questions for discussion. Firstly, what did you agree or disagree with in this talk? Secondly, how are the different denominations and traditions we've learned about portrayed in the media or discussed by people in this country or in the workplace? And finally, if you come from another religious background other than Christianity, do you recognise any similar differences between groupings within your religion?